Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is your friend Crispy Fanfics, bringing you another fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the first part of What If Naruto Had the Uzumaki Chains from birth. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Also, check the description below. Now, let's get into the fanfic. The night sky shattered like black glass as the nine-tailed fox's roar tore through Konoha. Buildings crumbled beneath massive paws, flames leaped from structure to structure with demonic glee, and the air itself seemed to tremble with the raw chakra radiating from the beast. This wasn't simply an attack, it was apocalypse given form, destruction incarnate, rampaging through what had once been a peaceful autumn evening. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, golden hair whipping in the wind generated by the fox's tails, stood atop Gamabunta with his newborn son clutched to his chest. Blood stained his white coat, some his, some Kushina's, some belonging to shinobi who'd already fallen in the chaos. His legendary calm had cracked, revealing something desperate and determined beneath. "Just a little longer," he whispered to the infant, who wailed against the night's terrors. "I'm sorry, Naruto. So sorry." The decision had been made in the frantic moments after the masked man had ripped the nine tails from Kushina. With his wife clinging to life by sheer will alone, with the village being reduced to rubble, Minato had been forced to choose, the village or his family. The answer, painful as it was, had never really been in question. A Hokage couldn't choose anything but the village. Even when it meant turning his son into a Jinchuriki. Even when it meant his own death. Kushina lay nearby, her crimson hair spread around her like blood on the stone altar where Minato had transported them. Her body trembled with each labored breath, the extraction of the nine tails having left her internal organs damaged beyond repair. Yet still she fought, still she lived, driven by the same force that had made her the previous host of the fox. "Minato!" she gasped, reaching toward him with a shaking hand. "Let me see him one more time." He knelt beside her, their son between them. The ritual preparations were complete. The 8 trigram seal formula inscribed on the stone. The ceremonial candles flickering in a perfect circle. The dead demon consuming seal technique ready to be activated. Everything was in place to seal half of the nine tails chakra within Naruto, and the other half within himself, taking it to the grave. "He has your face," Kushina whispered, touching Naruto's whisker-marked cheek with a gentleness that belied her reputation as the hot-blooded habanero. "But my—" Her voice broke as tears fell. A massive crash shook the ground. In the distance, the fox battled the third Hokage and a contingent of Konoha's elite jonin, a delaying action that wouldn't hold for much longer. "I have to do it now," Minato said, his voice tight. "The third can't hold him much longer." Kushina nodded, her violet eyes fierce despite her fading strength. "Naruto, grow up strong. Eat your vegetables. Make friends. Study hard. Find someone who loves you as much as I love your father." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry I won't be there to see it." Minato carried Naruto to the altar, laying him in the center of the seal formula. The infant's cries intensified, as if he sensed what was coming. In the sky above, the moon emerged from behind clouds stained orange by the fires consuming the village, bathing the scene in cold silver light. "I'll make the preparations for the 8 trigram seal," Minato said, his hands already forming the complex sequence of signs required. "Once I summon the Shinigami." The air around them suddenly shifted, grew heavier, as if reality itself had been compressed into the small clearing. Minato faltered mid-sign, his senses screaming a warning. Had the masked man returned? But no, this chakra signature was different. Familiar, yet utterly impossible. A golden glow emanated from the altar. "Minato!" Kushina gasped, levering herself upright despite her injuries. "Look!" Naruto had stopped crying. From his tiny body, golden chains, iridescent, ethereal, yet unmistakably solid, burst forth, spiraling upward toward the moon. They multiplied with each passing second, twisting and coiling into the air like living things, glimmering with chakra so dense it was visible to the naked eye. "Adamantine sealing chains?" Minato breathed, stunned recognition dawning on his face. But that's impossible. He's just an infant. The impossible unfolded before them as the chains, now numbering in the dozens, spread outward like a golden web. They radiated a palpable aura of suppression that made even Minato's immense chakra waver. My chains, Kushina whispered, fresh tears spilling down her face. Our son has my chains. The ground trembled again, more violently this time. A bestial roar tore through the night, closer now. Too close. The third's defenses had failed. The nine tails erupted from the treeline, tails whipping around its massive form, eyes blazing with hatred. Its jaws opened, revealing fangs taller than men, as it gathered chakra for a tailed beast bomb that would obliterate everything in its path. Minato's hands blurred through signs. I need to teleport it away from. The chains moved. Like golden lightning, they shot toward the fox, weaving through the air faster than the eye could track. Before either parent could react, the chains had wrapped themselves around the nine-tails' limbs, torso, and tails, constricting with a strength that shouldn't have been possible from such delicate-looking constructs. The fox howled in rage and pain, the tailed beast's bomb dissipating as its concentration broke. It thrashed against the bindings, but the chains only tightened, glowing brighter as they suppressed the demon's chakra. He's restraining the nine tails, Minato said, disbelief coloring his voice. Just like you did. Kushina's eyes widened. Naruto. The infant lay still on the altar, small face scrunched in what looked like concentration rather than distress. The chains pulsed with his heartbeat, each beat sending a wave of golden light along their length. Minato's mind raced. The original plan had been to split the fox's chakra, sealing the yin half in himself as he died and the yang half in Naruto. But with Naruto manifesting the adamantine sealing chains, a power that even among the Uzumaki clan usually took decades to master, new possibilities opened before him. Kushina, he said urgently, is it possible to modify the 8-trigram seal to work with his chains? To create a symbiotic relationship rather than a pure containment? Kushina's eyes sharpened, the legendary Uzumaki sealing expertise surfacing even through her pain. Yes. The chains are already suppressing the fox's chakra. If you integrate them into the seal matrix. She broke off, coughing blood. Save your strength, Minato said, squeezing her hand. His eyes moved from his wife to his son to the restrained Ninetails, calculations and possibilities flying through his mind. A new figure appeared in a swirl of leaves, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, his battle armor cracked and his face streaked with soot and blood. Minato, he rasped, then stopped short at the sight before him. His weathered face slackened with shock. What in the world? My son, Minato explained simply, a note of pride cutting through the grimness of the moment. He's an Uzumaki through and through. Hiruzen stared at the infant, then at the chains binding the most powerful of the tailed beasts. In all my years. There's no time. Minato interrupted, already modifying the seal formula on the stone. I need to adjust the seal while the Ninetails is restrained. The original plan won't work now, not with Naruto already demonstrating this level of control. What do you need me to do? Hiruzen asked, instantly shifting from shock to pragmatism. Protect them. Minato answered, nodding toward Kushina and Naruto. And be ready to take command again. My modification will still require the dead demon-consuming seal. Hiruzen's eyes widened. You still plan to sacrifice yourself? But with the boy's chains. The seal needs a catalyst of immense power. Minato cut in, his brush moving with precision across the stone. My life force will serve that purpose. There's no other way to ensure the seal's stability, especially for an infant container. Minato. Kushina protested weakly. He met her eyes, love and determination mingling in his gaze. Our son will need you, Kushina. With your knowledge of what it means to be a Jinchuriki, with your experience with the chains, you must live. I'm dying already, she argued, though the protest lacked force. They both knew she spoke the truth. Minato's smile was sad but certain. Then we'll both watch over him, from wherever we go next. The fox roared again, a sound of frustrated rage that sent birds scattering from trees miles away. The chains tightened further, drawing a pained whine from the massive beast. "It's time," Minato said, returning to Naruto's side. The modified seal formula now spiraled outward from the 8 trigrams design, incorporating elements that would harmonize with the adamantine chains. "Hiruzen, be ready. Once I begin the sealing, the fox will fight harder than ever." The third Hokage nodded, taking up position between the demon and the small family. Minato placed his hand on Naruto's stomach, feeling the warm pulse of his son's chakra, already remarkable for a newborn, and now intertwined with the golden energy of the chains. With his other hand, he formed the first sign of the dead demon-consuming seal. "Minato," Kushina called, her voice suddenly stronger. He turned to find her sitting upright, her face set in the determined expression he'd fallen in love with years ago. "Let me help." "Kushina, you're too weak." "I'm dying anyway," she said simply. "Let my remaining chakra strengthen the seal. Let me do this one last thing for our son." Minato hesitated, then nodded. In truth, her expertise with both the chains and being a Jinchuriki would make the seal even stronger. Together, they placed their hands on Naruto's small body. Their chakra mingled, Minato's like sunlight, Kushina's like autumn fire, flowing into the seal formula. "Naruto," Kushina whispered, "we love you. Never forget that." Minato's hands completed the final sign. Dead demon consuming seal. The temperature plummeted. The very air seemed to thicken, to congeal around them. Behind Minato materialized a spectral figure visible only to those involved in the sealing, the Shinigami, death god of the hidden leaf's forbidden techniques. Its grotesque face split in a hungry grin as it plunged its arm through Minato's back. The pain was beyond description, beyond comprehension. Minato's soul was being torn in two, the spectral hand reaching through him toward the 9 tails. But he maintained his focus, directing the sealing with every ounce of his legendary precision. Naruto's chains pulsed, brightening until they were almost blinding. They began to draw the 9 tails toward the altar, the beast fighting every inch of the way despite the chakra suppression. "No!" it roared, its voice like thunder given language. "I will not be imprisoned again." But the pull of the chains, combined with the power of the dead demon-consuming seal, was inexorable. The fox's massive form began to compress, to distill into pure chakra that flowed along the golden chains toward Naruto. Hiruzen watched in awe as the most destructive force in the shinobi world was channeled into an infant through conduits of light. The third had lived through 3 great wars, had witnessed jutsu that could reshape landscapes and summon creatures from beyond reality. But nothing like this. Kushina's strength failed as the last of her chakra poured into the seal. She collapsed back onto the ground, her breathing shallow but her eyes still fixed on her son. "It's working," she whispered. Minato nodded, unable to speak through the agony of the Shinigami's hold. His vision was darkening at the edges. His heartbeat slowing. But still he guided the sealing, incorporating Naruto's chains into the very structure of the 8 trigrams seal. The 9 tails, now reduced to a swirling mass of malevolent red chakra, fought one last time. It surged against the chains, nearly breaking free. Naruto's eyes opened. For one impossible moment, they flashed from newborn blue to something older, something knowing. The chains pulsed once more, and the fox's resistance crumbled. The last of the 9 tails vanished into Naruto's body. On his stomach, black lines spiraled outward, forming the 8 trigram seal, but with a difference. Interwoven with the traditional patterns were golden traces, remnants of the chains that had made this new form of sealing possible. Minato fell to his knees beside the altar. The Shinigami loomed behind him, ready to claim its due. "It's done," he gasped, gathering his son into his arms one last time. "Naruto, you're going to be amazing." He turned to Kushina, finding her eyes already fixed on him. No words were needed between them now. They had said all that mattered. With the last of his strength, Minato turned to Hiruzen. "Take care of him. Tell him when he's ready." The Shinigami's hand withdrew, taking Minato's soul with it. The 4th Hokage's body crumpled to the ground beside his wife, his face peaceful despite the violence of his passing. Hiruzen stepped forward, lifting the infant from his father's lifeless arms. Naruto had fallen asleep, the massive exertion of chakra having exhausted his tiny body. On his stomach, the seal glowed faintly golden before settling into his skin. "I promise," the third whispered to the fallen heroes. In the distance, dawn broke over a wounded Konoha. Fires still burned in parts of the village. Bodies lay among the rubble. But the Nine-Tails was gone, sealed away by the sacrifice of the fourth Hokage and his wife, and by the inexplicable power of their newborn son. Hiruzen knew decisions would need to be made. The village would demand explanations. The council would want control of the Jinchuriki. The other nations would circle like vultures if they sensed weakness. But as he looked down at the sleeping infant in his arms, marked with whiskers that would forever identify him as the Nine-Tails container, Hiruzen made his first decision as reinstated Hokage. "Your heritage must remain a secret," he told the sleeping child. "Both the fact that you are Minato and Kushina's son, and that you possess the adamantine sealing chains. Either would make you a target for every enemy Konoha has ever made." The infant slept on, unaware of the burden he now carried or the legacy he had just demonstrated. "I will protect you as best I can, Naruto Uzumaki," Hiruzen promised. "Until you're ready to protect yourself." 5 years passed like leaves blown across Konoha's streets, quickly, colorfully, and leaving subtle changes in their wake. The village had rebuilt after the Nine-Tails attack. New buildings stood where old ones had fallen. Children too young to remember the nightmare played in parks constructed atop ground once soaked with blood. Life continued, as it always did in the shinobi world, moving forward even when memories of loss haunted the survivors. In a small apartment on the east side of the village, a 5-year-old boy with sunbright hair and whisker-marked cheeks slept fitfully beneath thin blankets. Moonlight spilled through uncurtained windows, painting silver stripes across his bed. To most observers, he would have appeared to be just another child, perhaps a bit small for his age, perhaps a bit too thin, but ordinary nonetheless. Most observers would have been wrong. Naruto Uzumaki's dreams that night were chaotic, filled with red eyes and burning chakra and a hatred so ancient it had no beginning. He tossed and turned, small fists clenching in the sheets, as he fought battles no child should have to face. Deep within him, sealed behind barriers of ingenious design, the nine-tailed fox raged against its prison. 5 years of captivity had done nothing to temper its fury. If anything, being contained within a human child, had only intensified its desire for freedom and vengeance. The fox hurled itself against the seal, sensing a moment of weakness in its sleeping host. Its malevolent chakra seeped through microscopic cracks, trickling into Naruto's system like poison. "I will be free," it snarled within the mindscape, its massive form dwarfing the representation of the seal, a massive gate held closed by a paper tag. "This child cannot hold me forever." In the physical world, Naruto's body began to glow with a faint red aura. His whisker marks darkened and lengthened. His fingernails sharpened into claws that tore tiny rips in his bedsheets. The fox's chakra surged, nearly breaking through. Golden light erupted from Naruto's body. Chains, delicate yet unbreakable, spiraled outward from his chakra core. They filled the small bedroom, coiling around furniture, embedding themselves in walls, creating a web of suppressive energy that caused the air itself to grow heavy. Within the seal, similar chains materialized, wrapping around the nine-tails' massive form. The fox howled in rage and pain as its chakra was forcibly contained, compressed back behind the seal. "No!" it roared, thrashing against the golden bindings. "Not again!" But the chains only tightened, pulsing with a rhythm that matched Naruto's heartbeat. Slowly, inexorably, they drew the fox's chakra back, sealing the leaks, reinforcing the barriers that kept the demon contained. In his bed, Naruto's features relaxed. The red glow faded, replaced by the softer golden light of the chains. His breathing steadied. The nightmare receded. Unknown to the sleeping child, a figure crouched on the rooftop outside his window. The ANBU operative wore a dog mask, but the shock of silver hair visible above it would have identified him to those who knew Konoha's elite forces. Kakashi Hatake watched silently as the golden chains gradually withdrew back into Naruto's body, leaving no trace of their existence save for a few inexplicable scratches in the apartment walls. This wasn't the first time Kakashi had witnessed the phenomenon. As one of the operatives assigned to guard the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, he had observed similar incidents over the past 5 years, moments when the fox tested its boundaries and Naruto's unconscious defenses activated to contain it. What made this different, what made Kakashi's visible eye widen behind his mask, was the increasing complexity of the chains. The first manifestations had been simple, a few chains, basic in their structure. But tonight, they're evolving, he murmured to himself. The chains had displayed new configurations, new patterns in how they spread throughout the room. They were adapting, becoming more efficient at their purpose. Kakashi made a mental note to report this development to the Hokage. Lord Third had been meticulously documenting every instance of the chain's appearance, building a record that would one day help Naruto understand and control his inherited ability. Until then, the silver-haired Anbu would continue his vigil. He owed that much to his former sensei in Kushina. He owed that much to the orphaned boy who carried burdens no child should bear. With one last look at the now peacefully sleeping Naruto, Kakashi vanished in a silent blur of movement, leaving no trace of his presence save for a lingering sadness in the night air. The Hokage's office was dimly lit, the primary illumination coming from the full moon visible through the wide windows behind the desk. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat reviewing scrolls by lamplight, his aged face carved with deeper lines than the night 5 years ago when the Nine-Tails had attacked. A soft knock at the door broke his concentration. "Enter," he called, already knowing who it would be. Few sought the Hokage at this hour except those who guarded the village's most sensitive secrets. Kakashi Hatake stepped into the office, Anbu mask now attached to his belt rather than covering his face. His left eye remained closed, the Sharingan hidden unless needed. "Lord Hokage," he greeted with a short bow. "Report, Kakashi," Hiruzen said, setting aside the scroll he'd been reading. "Another incident with Naruto," Kakashi began. "The fox attempted to break through the seal during his sleep." Hiruzen's expression remained neutral, but his eyes sharpened. "And the chains? They manifested more strongly than I've seen before," Kakashi said. "More numerous, more complex in their formation. They filled his entire apartment, anchoring themselves to the physical structure itself." The Hokage leaned back in his chair, pipe forgotten in his hand. "Interesting. The phenomenon is progressing more rapidly than anticipated." "There's more," Kakashi added. "The chains showed signs of what I can only describe as intelligence. They didn't just restrain the fox's chakra randomly, they targeted specific points where the leakage was occurring. They adapted to the threat." Hiruzen's eyebrows rose. "That is unprecedented. Even Kushina's chains, formidable as they were, required her conscious direction." "Naruto remained asleep throughout the entire event," Kakashi confirmed. The Hokage rose from his desk, moving to gaze out the window at the sleeping village below. In the distance, he could just make out the building where Naruto lived alone, an arrangement Hiruzen regretted but had been unable to avoid given the village's complicated feelings toward the Jinchuriki. "We may need to accelerate our timeline," he said after a long moment of consideration. "I had planned to wait until Naruto graduated from the academy before revealing anything about his heritage or abilities." "Is that wise?" Kakashi asked. "He's only 5. What's wise and what's necessary aren't always the same, unfortunately," Hiruzen replied with a weary sigh. "If the chains are developing this quickly, Naruto may soon manifest them while conscious. Imagine the consequences if that happened in public, at the academy, or in the village center." Kakashi nodded slowly. The implications were clear. If Naruto suddenly sprouted golden chains in the middle of a lesson, it would create panic. The village already treated him with suspicion and fear due to the Nine-Tails. Adding another mysterious power to the mix would only worsen his isolation. "What do you suggest?" Kakashi asked. Hiruzen returned to his desk and opened a drawer, removing a small scroll sealed with the Hokage's personal mark. I've prepared for this eventuality, though I hoped it wouldn't come so soon. He unrolled the scroll, revealing complex diagrams and notes, written in a hand Kakashi recognized as Minato's. Interspersed were annotations in different writing, presumably Kushina's. Minato left detailed records of the sealing, Hiruzen explained, including his observations about how Naruto's chains interacted with the Nine Tails during the initial sealing. Kushina had also documented her own experiences with the adamantine sealing chains. You want to begin training him, Kakashi stated, seeing where this was heading. Not yet, Hiruzen clarified. He's still too young for formal training. But he needs to be made aware of what's happening to him. He needs to understand why he's different, why the villagers treat him as they do. You'll tell him about the Nine Tails? Kakashi asked, surprised. The Hokage had forbidden anyone from speaking of Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki. Not everything, not yet. But enough that he'll understand the chains when they manifest consciously. Hiruzen resealed the scroll. And I'll need your help, Kakashi. Me? You were Minato's student. You've been watching over Naruto since his birth. And you've witnessed the chains in action more than anyone else. Hiruzen's eyes were kind but resolute. I want you to take a more active role in his development. Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly. Lord Hokage, I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. My duties in ANBU can be adjusted. Hiruzen interrupted gently. I'm not asking you to adopt him or become his full-time guardian. But perhaps it's time you met the boy you've been protecting from the shadows. The silver-haired Jonin fell silent, conflicting emotions warring behind his carefully neutral expression. He had deliberately maintained his distance from Naruto, finding it too painful to interact with the living legacy of his deceased sensei and Kushina. The boy's eyes, so like Minato's, and that smile that echoed Kushina's, it reopened wounds that had never fully healed. But Hiruzen was right. If anyone should guide Naruto in understanding his unique heritage, it should be someone who had known his parents. When? Kakashi finally asked. Soon, Hiruzen said. I'll speak with him first, explain as much as a 5-year-old can comprehend. Then I'll introduce you, not as an ANBU operative, but as a Jonin of the village who knew his parents. Kakashi nodded, accepting the assignment even as apprehension settled in his stomach. And his training? Will begin gradually, Hiruzen said. First, awareness. Then, simple exercises in chakra control. The actual manifestation and manipulation of the chains will come later, when he's older and better able to handle such power. The Hokage stood, signaling the end of their meeting. For now, maintain your current observation schedule. Report any further developments immediately. Yes, Lord Hokage. Kakashi bowed and turned to leave. Kakashi, Hiruzen called as the Jonin reached the door. Minato and Kushina would be grateful. A complex emotion flickered across Kakashi's partially visible face, something between grief and determination. I hope so, Lord Hokage. After Kakashi departed, Hiruzen returned to the window, gaze once again finding Naruto's building in the distance. The full moon bathed the village in silver light, reminiscent of that terrible night 5 years ago. But where that night had brought death and destruction, perhaps this one marked the beginning of a new chapter. You've given us a miracle, Minato, Kushina, he murmured to the night sky. Now we must ensure your son is ready for the path ahead. Morning came to Konoha in a blaze of autumn color. Sunlight spilled over the Hokage monument, gradually illuminating the village from east to west. Markets opened. Shinobi reported for missions. Academy students hurried to classes. The rhythm of daily life resumed, unaware of the momentous decisions made during the night. In his small apartment, Naruto Uzumaki woke with a yawn that seemed too big for his small body. Blue eyes blinked sleepily as he pushed tangled blankets aside and slid from his bed. Ramen for breakfast, he announced to the empty apartment, voice bright despite the absence of anyone to hear it. The morning routine was familiar, instant ramen prepared with water heated on a small stove, After one too many burned fingers, Naruto had mastered this skill, milk drunk straight from the carton, teeth brushed with more enthusiasm than technique, and clothes pulled on with the haphazard approach of a child who lived without adult supervision. Through it all, Naruto chattered to himself, filling the silence with a running commentary that would have broken hearts had anyone been there to hear it. Gonna be the best in class today! Iruka-sensei will have to notice me. Maybe he'll take me for ramen after if I do really good. The optimism was relentless, a shield against the reality of his situation. No one had ever told Naruto why the villagers avoided him, why parents pulled their children away when he approached, why shopkeepers ran out of items when he tried to buy them. But children, especially those forced to fend for themselves, develop acute sensitivities to rejection. Naruto knew he was different. He just didn't know why. He was halfway through his third cup of instant ramen when a knock at the door startled him into dropping his chopsticks. Visitors were rare enough to be suspicious. Usually it meant a landlord demanding rent, though the payments appeared mysteriously each month from what Naruto assumed was his orphan money, or occasionally a stern-faced shinobi delivering a warning about his latest prank. "Coming!" he called, scrambling to the door with ramen broth dribbling down his chin. When he pulled the door open, the last person he expected to see was the Hokage himself, dressed in his full ceremonial robes and hat. "Old man!" Naruto exclaimed, instantly dropping the formal address most villagers used in favor of the familiar nickname he'd adopted. "What are you doing here? Did I do something bad? Because if it's about the paint on the flower shop, that wasn't me, it was." "Good morning, Naruto," Hiruzen interrupted with a gentle smile. "May I come in? I'd like to speak with you about something important." Naruto's eyes widened, surprise giving way to a flash of anxiety before his usual bravado reasserted itself. "Sure. But it's kinda messy. I wasn't expecting the Hokage to visit or anything." Hiruzen stepped inside, carefully navigating around scattered clothes, empty ramen cups, and the odd toy or training kunai, made of dulled rubber, standard issue for academy pre-training. If the state of the apartment bothered him, he gave no sign of it. "Are you hungry?" Naruto asked, gesturing to his half-eaten breakfast. "I got more ramen. Not the fancy kind you probably eat, but it's pretty good." "I've eaten, thank you," Hiruzen replied, settling onto the single chair at Naruto's small table. "But please finish your breakfast. What I have to tell you can wait a few minutes." Naruto hesitated, then returned to his ramen, eyeing the Hokage curiously between slurps. The old man visited him occasionally, usually taking him out for proper ramen at Ichiraku's, but never like this, never in his apartment, never so early, never with that serious look behind his kind smile. When the last noodle had been devoured, Naruto wiped his mouth on his sleeve and fixed the Hokage with an unusually direct stare. "So what's the important thing? Am I in trouble?" "No, Naruto, you're not in trouble," Hiruzen assured him. "But I need to tell you some things about yourself. Things I had planned to wait until you were older to share." Naruto's breath caught. In his most private moments, in the quiet darkness before sleep claimed him, he sometimes imagined this very scenario, the Hokage arriving to reveal some wonderful secret about his origins. Perhaps his parents were famous heroes, or he was the last survivor of some noble clan, or he possessed a special power that would make everyone acknowledge him. "Is it about my parents?" he blurted out, unable to contain the hope that surged through him. A shadow of sadness passed over Hiruzen's face. "Partly, yes. But there's more to it than that." The Hokage seemed to be choosing his words with extraordinary care. "Naruto, have you ever noticed anything unusual happen when you're asleep? Or when you're very upset or scared?" The question was so unexpected that Naruto's customary bluster faltered. "Unusual? Like what? Perhaps golden light, or strange dreams about chains?" Naruto's eyes widened. How did the old man know about those dreams? The ones where golden chains surrounded him, protecting him from a darkness that raged and roared? "Sometimes," he admitted reluctantly. "I dream about chains. They're warm and they make me feel safe." Hiruzen nodded, as if this confirmed something he already knew. Those aren't just dreams, Naruto. Those chains are real, a special ability that you inherited from your mother. The world seemed to tilt beneath Naruto. My mother? You knew my mother? Yes, Hiruzen said gently. I knew both your parents very well. They were exceptional shinobi of Konoha, and they loved you very much. Naruto's throat tightened, his vision blurring with sudden tears. All his life, he'd wondered, had they abandoned him? Had they not wanted him? Were they even from Konoha at all? Who were they? He asked, his voice smaller than the Hokage had ever heard it. What were their names? Hiruzen sighed deeply. I can't tell you everything yet, Naruto. There are people, dangerous people, who were enemies of your parents. If they knew you were their child, they might come after you. Naruto's face fell, the brief hope crumbling. But the Hokage continued quickly. However, I can tell you about your mother's special ability, the same ability that you've inherited. A special ability? Naruto perked up immediately, his natural resilience asserting itself. Like a super cool jutsu? Something like that. Hiruzen smiled. Your mother belonged to a clan known as the Uzumaki. That's where you get your last name. The Uzumaki clan was known for their exceptional life force, incredible chakra reserves, and their mastery of sealing techniques. Sealing? Like explosive tags and stuff? Naruto asked, trying to connect this to what little he knew from his early academy lessons. Much more advanced than that, Hiruzen explained. And some members of the clan possessed a rare ability called the adamantine sealing chains. Adamantine? Sealing chains? Naruto repeated slowly, testing the unfamiliar words. They're chains made of pure chakra, the Hokage continued. Golden, unbreakable, and capable of binding even the most powerful forces. Your mother was renowned for this ability. And now, it seems you have inherited it. Naruto's eyes widened to saucer-like proportions. I can make golden chains? For real? His small hands opened and closed, as if trying to summon the chains through sheer excitement. Yes, though right now they only appear when you're asleep or in danger, Hiruzen explained. As you grow older, you'll learn to control them consciously. The boy's face scrunched in confusion. But if I have this super cool ability, why don't I remember using it? Because it's been protecting you unconsciously, Hiruzen said. Particularly from what's inside you. And here it was, the moment Hiruzen had dreaded. How to explain the Nine Tails to a 5-year-old? How to help him understand why the village feared him without crushing his spirit? Inside me? Naruto's hands went to his stomach. What's inside me? Hiruzen chose his next words with extreme care. The night you were born, Naruto, Konoha was attacked by a powerful force, a creature of immense chakra called the Nine-Tailed Fox. Recognition flickered in Naruto's eyes. The demon from the stories? The one the fourth Hokage defeated? Yes, Hiruzen nodded. But such creatures cannot simply be destroyed. They can only be sealed away. Understanding dawned slowly on Naruto's face, a terrible understanding no child should have to face. It's inside me? That's why everyone looks at me like that. Like they're scared? The pain in those blue eyes nearly broke Hiruzen's resolve. But the boy deserved the truth, or as much of it as he could handle. The fourth Hokage sealed the Nine Tails within you, yes. You are what's known as a Jinchuriki, a human vessel containing a tailed beast. But, he added quickly, seeing Naruto's expression crumple, that's where your chains become so important. Naruto looked up, confusion mixing with hurt. What do you mean? Your chains have been protecting you from the Nine Tails' influence, Hiruzen explained. Most Jinchuriki struggle to contain their tailed beasts. The beasts fight against the seal, trying to take over. But your chains, your mother's legacy, have been suppressing the Nine Tails chakra automatically, keeping you safe even while you sleep. So the chains are good? Naruto asked hesitantly. Very good, Hiruzen confirmed. They make you uniquely suited to being a Jinchuriki. In fact, The fourth Hokage modified the sealing technique specifically to work with your chains. A tentative pride began to replace the hurt in Naruto's expression. So I'm helping protect the village? By keeping the fox locked up. Exactly, Hiruzen said, relieved at the boy's resilience. You're not the Nine Tails, Naruto. You're its jailer. Its prison. And your chains are the bars of that prison. Naruto sat silently for a long moment, absorbing this revelation. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a determination that seemed far older than his 5 years. I want to learn to use them, the chains. I want to control them myself, not just when I'm asleep. Hiruzen nodded, having anticipated this reaction. And you will in time. In fact, I've arranged for someone to help you understand your abilities better. A teacher? For me? Excitement instantly overtook the solemnity of the moment. Who is it? Is it you? Are you gonna teach me, old man? Not me. Hiruzen chuckled. Though I'll certainly monitor your progress. No, I've assigned someone who knew your parents well, someone who can help you connect with their legacy. When do I meet them? Is it today? Can we start right now? The questions tumbled out one after another as Naruto bounced on his feet. Soon, Hiruzen promised. Very soon. But first, we need to discuss something very important. His tone grew serious again. Your heritage, both the chains and your status as a Jinchuriki, must remain secret for now. Naruto's excitement dimmed. But if the chains are so cool, why can't I tell anyone? Because there are those who would seek to exploit your power, Hiruzen explained. Other villages, other nations, who would see you as a weapon rather than a person. Your parents had many enemies who would target you if they knew who you were. So it's like a super-secret mission? Naruto asked, trying to frame the restriction in terms that appealed to him. Hiruzen smiled. Exactly like that. One of your most important missions as a shinobi of Konoha. Naruto straightened, his face suddenly solemn with childish determination. I won't tell anyone. Ninja promise. Good, Hiruzen said, rising from his chair. Now, I believe you have academy classes today? We wouldn't want you to be late. Reality crashed back in, and Naruto's eyes darted to the clock on his wall. Iruka-sensei's gonna kill me! He rushed to gather his school materials, shoving books and practice kunai into his backpack with little regard for organization. Halfway through this chaotic process, he paused and looked back at the Hokage. Hey, old man? Yes, Naruto? My mom, was she strong? With the chains, I mean? Hiruzen's expression softened. She was one of the strongest kunoichi I've ever known. Her chains could hold down the most powerful creatures in our world. Naruto grinned, a flash of pure joy that lit his entire face. Then I'm gonna be even stronger. I'll make her proud. Believe it. I have no doubt you will, Hiruzen said softly. No doubt at all. As Naruto raced out the door, late as usual but with a new fire in his eyes, Hiruzen remained in the small apartment, gaze lingering on a spot on the wall where faint scratches marred the paint, scratches in a distinctly chain-like pattern, visible only to those who knew what to look for. The boy has his mother's spirit, he murmured to himself, and his father's determination. Heaven help us all when he comes into his full power. With a last glance around the apartment, mentally noting to have someone stock the refrigerator with something other than expired milk and instant ramen, the third Hokage departed, stepping back into his role as leader of the Hidden Leaf. Behind him, the apartment seemed somehow brighter, as if the revelations of the morning had left a tangible change in the air. Or perhaps it was simply the autumn sunlight, streaming through windows that had needed cleaning for months, illuminating the humble dwelling of a boy who now carried not just the burden of a tailed beast, but the legacy of a legendary clan. In a darkened chamber beneath the Hokage Tower, 3 figures stood around a table covered with scrolls and diagrams. The largest scroll, unfurled in the center, displayed a complex seal formula interwoven with golden tracings, a representation of Naruto's unique 8 trigrams seal. You've told him, then? Koharu Yuditane, one of the Hokage's advisors and a member of the village council, asked without preamble. Hiruzen nodded. As much as a child his age can understand. The basics of his status as a Jinchuriki and the existence of the chains. And his parentage? Hamura Mitokado, the other advisor, inquired, adjusting his glasses as he studied the sealed diagram. Not yet, Hiruzen replied. That remains classified. For now, he knows only that his mother was an Uzumaki with the ability to manifest the chains. Koharu's lips pressed into a thin line. I still believe this is premature. The boy is 5 years old. The burden of knowledge is less dangerous than the burden of ignorance. Hiruzen interrupted firmly. The chains are developing rapidly. We cannot risk him manifesting them publicly without understanding what they are. And what of control? Hamura asked. If the chains appear during an emotional outburst at the academy. Which is precisely why I've assigned Kakashi Hatake to begin working with him, Hiruzen said. Not formal training, not yet, but guidance. Awareness. The foundations that will allow for control later. Hatake? Koharu looked skeptical. He's ANBU. His skills are needed elsewhere. And his connection to the fourth makes him emotionally compromised when it comes to the boy. Or makes him the perfect mentor, Hiruzen countered. Kakashi understands loss. He understands burden. And he was there the night the chains first manifested. The three elders fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The decision to tell Naruto even this much about his heritage represented a significant shift in policy. For 5 years, they had maintained absolute secrecy, protecting the boy through anonymity and distance. But the chains changed everything. An Uzumaki Jinchuriki with active adamantine sealing chains was not just a village asset, he was a potential game-changer in the balance of power between the 5 great nations. There will be consequences, Hamura finally said. Danzo will not be pleased. Danzo's pleasure is not my primary concern, Hiruzen replied, a rare edge entering his voice. The well-being of a child who carries 2 of Konoha's greatest legacies is. Koharu sighed, the sound carrying the weight of decades of difficult decisions. What of the seal itself? Is it stable? Hiruzen gestured to the diagram. According to our best seal masters, yes. Minato's modification was brilliant. He integrated the chains into the very structure of the 8 trigram seal. They work symbiotically, each strengthening the other. And the 9 tails? Hamura pressed. Has there been any communication between it and the boy? None that we've detected, Hiruzen said. The chains appear to be keeping the fox's influence contained entirely. Naruto hasn't reported any unusual sensations or voices, beyond the dreams of the chains themselves. Small mercies, Koharu murmured. What's your timeline moving forward? Hamura asked, all business once more. Hiruzen rolled up the scroll, his movements deliberate. Kakashi will begin meeting with Naruto next week. Casual interactions at first, building trust. Basic awareness exercises will follow. No active training in manifesting the chains until he's at least 7 or 8, and even then, only in controlled environments. And the academy instructors? Koharu asked. Surely they should be informed if there's a risk of the chains appearing during classes. Irika Yumino will be briefed, Hiruzen decided after a moment's consideration. No one else for now. The fewer who know, the safer Naruto remains. The 3 elders exchanged glances, a silent communication born of decades working together. Whatever their differences on specific approaches, they shared a common goal, the protection of Konoha. And Naruto Uzumaki, whether they viewed him primarily as a weapon or as a child, was undeniably crucial to that protection. Very well, Hamura said finally. We will reevaluate in 6 months, or sooner if there are significant developments. Hiruzen nodded his agreement. Thank you for your counsel. As his advisors departed, Hiruzen remained in the sealed chamber, his aged fingers tracing the golden lines that represented Naruto's chains on the diagram. So much power in such small hands. So much potential for both greatness and catastrophe. Watch over him, Minato, Kushina, he whispered to the empty room. Guide him through what's to come. Night had fallen once more over Konoha. Stars glittered above the village like scattered diamonds, their light competing with the warm glow of windows and street lamps. Most children Naruto's age were already asleep, tucked in by parents who checked closets for monsters and left night lights burning against the dark. Naruto sat cross-legged on his bed, wide awake despite the late hour. His apartment was quiet save for the occasional creaking of the building and the distant sounds of village nightlife. But for once, he didn't feel alone in the silence. "Chains," he whispered, staring intently at his outstretched palms. "Come on, Chains. I know you're in there." Nothing happened. No golden light, no miraculous manifestation. Just the normal hands of a 5-year-old boy, small and slightly dirty despite his pre-bedtime washing. Naruto sighed dramatically and flopped backward onto his pillow. "The old man said I'd learn to control you eventually," he told his hands accusingly. "But I want to see you now." He'd spent the entire day bursting with his new secret, desperate to tell someone, anyone, about the amazing power he apparently possessed. Only the Hokage's words about it being a super-secret mission had kept him from blurting it out to Iruka-sensei or the kids at the academy. A super-cool ability that made him special, not weird or scary. A power that had belonged to his mother, proving he hadn't just appeared out of nowhere as some of the meaner village kids suggested. And best of all, a way to protect everyone from the fox that had hurt the village. The fox that made people look at him with those cold eyes. "If I could just make you appear," he muttered to his invisible chains, "then everyone would have to acknowledge me." The phrase, "acknowledge me," had become something of a mantra for Naruto, though he was too young to articulate exactly why it mattered so much. He just knew, bone deep, that being seen, truly seen, was what he wanted most in the world. With a resigned huff, he pulled his blanket up to his chin and closed his eyes. Maybe in his dreams, he'd see the Chains again. Maybe there, he could learn their secrets. "Good night, Chains," he mumbled as sleep began to claim him. "Good night, Mom, wherever you are." As Naruto's breathing deepened and his conscious mind surrendered to dreams, something stirred within him. Not the malevolent presence of the Nine Tails, still securely bound, but something warmer. Something golden. A single, delicate chain emerged from his solar plexus, glimmering faintly in the moonlight that spilled through his window. It coiled once around his sleeping form before dissolving back into his chakra network, leaving no trace of its brief appearance save for a subtle warming of the air. Outside, perched on a neighboring rooftop, Kakashi Hatake lowered the book he'd been pretending to read. His visible eye narrowed thoughtfully as he observed the momentary manifestation. "Interesting," he murmured. "Very interesting indeed." The ANBU operative settled back into his watching position, prepared for a long night of guard duty. But now, for the first time, he found himself looking forward to the assignment Hiruzen had given him, to step from the shadows and actually interact with his sensei's son. "Chains from birth," Kakashi mused, recalling the night 5 years ago when a newborn had restrained the most powerful of the tailed beasts. "What else might you be capable of, Naruto Uzumaki?" The question hung in the night air, unanswered but pregnant with possibilities that stretched far beyond Konoha's walls, far beyond the present moment. Possibilities that would, in time, reshape the very fabric of the shinobi world. For now, though, a small boy slept peacefully in his bed, dreaming of golden chains that danced like sunlight on water. And in the depths of his mindscape, behind bars reinforced by those same chains, the nine-tailed fox watched with ancient, malevolent eyes, patient, calculating, and very, very afraid of what its young jailer might become. Kunai sliced through morning air, flashing silver against azure sky, then thudded uselessly into dirt, 2 feet shy of the wooden target. Laughter erupted instantly, sharp as broken glass. "Nice throw, dead last!" Naruto Uzumaki snatched another practice kunai from the ground, face burning hotter than fire country summer. 7 years old now, his grip on the weapon remained awkward despite months of practice. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the fury pulsing through his small frame. "I wasn't ready!" he shot back, blue eyes narrowing. "Just watch this time." The second throw spun wildly, clattering against the target's wooden frame before bouncing pathetically into the grass. The laughter crescendoed. Inside Naruto's chest, something stirred, something hot and golden and dangerous. A tingling sensation spread through his chakra network, starting at his core and racing outward like lightning seeking ground. Not here, he thought desperately, remembering the Hokage's warning. Not now. He clenched his fists, focusing on the physical sensation of nails digging into palms. The tingling receded, reluctantly. That's enough practice time, called Irika-sensei from across the academy training yard. Everyone inside for tactical theory. The students groaned collectively, even the ones who'd been mocking Naruto seconds before. Nobody liked tactical theory, with its dusty scrolls and endless memorization of terrain advantages. The group shuffled toward the academy building, conversation shifting to complaints about classwork. Naruto hung back, retrieving his scattered kunai. 2 years had passed since the Hokage revealed the truth, well, partial truth, about what made him different. 2 years of knowing he carried both a demon and a legacy inside him. 2 years of special training sessions with the strange, masked jonin named Kakashi, learning to sense and suppress the golden chains that occasionally threatened to burst forth when his emotions ran hot. 2 years, and he still couldn't hit a target that every other kid in class could nail blindfolded. Rushing your throw again. Naruto startled, nearly dropping the kunai he just collected. Irika-sensei stood behind him, arms crossed but eyes kind. I had it perfect yesterday with Kakashi-sensei. Naruto protested, though they both knew it was a lie. Irika sighed. Your stance is still wrong. You're throwing from the shoulder when you should be using your whole body. He demonstrated the proper form. Try it again, just once before class. Naruto squared his shoulders, mimicking Irika's stance. He visualized the throw, just as Kakashi had taught him. See it first in your mind, then make your body follow. The kunai left his hand with marginally better spin, striking the outer ring of the target with a satisfying thunk. There! See? Naruto bounced on his toes, pointing excitedly. I told you I could do it! Irika smiled, ruffling the boy's blonde spikes. Much better. Now come on, you're already late for class. I don't see why we need stupid tactical theory anyway. Naruto grumbled as they walked. When am I ever gonna use that? I'm gonna be a frontline fighter, believe it! Oh? Irika raised an eyebrow. And when the enemy lures you into a swamp because you didn't recognize the terrain signs? What then, frontline fighter? Naruto's face scrunched in thought. I'd use my shadow clones to make a human bridge! Irika barked a surprised laugh. Shadow clones? Where'd you learn about those? That's a Jonin-level technique. Naruto froze, realizing his slip. Kakashi had mentioned shadow clones during their last session, explaining how they might interact with the chains Naruto still couldn't consciously manifest. Just heard about 'em somewhere. He mumbled, suddenly fascinated by his sandals. Irika studied him for a moment, then pushed open the classroom door. Well, maybe someday you'll learn them. After you master the basic clone jutsu, which, if I recall correctly, you still can't perform. The reminder stung, but Naruto forced a grin. I'm saving my best moves for when they really count. The classroom fell silent as they entered, 20 pairs of eyes tracking Naruto's movement to his seat. He kept his chin up, refusing to be cowed by their stares. Let them look. Let them wonder why the dead last got special training sessions with the Jonin. Let them wonder why Irika-sensei always seemed to give him extra chances. Someday, they'd know exactly who, and what, Naruto Uzumaki really was. Focus, Naruto. Control your breathing. Kakashi Hatake leaned against a tree, orange book held loosely in one hand, single visible eye fixed on the 7-year-old sitting cross-legged in the forest clearing. 2 years of mentorship had done little to soften the Jonin's aloof demeanor, but Naruto had learned to detect the subtle shifts in tone that indicated approval or disappointment. Right now, the tone suggested growing impatience. I am focusing, Naruto grumbled, eyes squeezed shut so tightly his whisker markings bunched. But nothing's happening. Kakashi sighed, snapping his book closed. What did we discuss about chakra manipulation? That it's like a river, Naruto recited dutifully. You can't force it, you have to guide it. And my chains come from the same chakra source as everything else, so I should be able to access them just like any other jutsu. So why can't you? The boy's eyes snapped open, frustration painted across his face in crimson splotches. Because it's not working! A flicker of golden light sparked at his fingertips, there and gone so quickly it might have been imagined. Kakashi's eye narrowed, catching the momentary manifestation. It's trying to, he observed, pushing away from the tree to kneel before his student. But you're fighting it. I am not. You are. Every time the chains begin to form, you tense up. Your fear of losing control is preventing you from gaining any control at all. Naruto's lower lip jutted out. I'm not afraid. Yes, you are, Kakashi countered calmly. And that's perfectly normal. Your chains have always activated in moments of extreme emotion or during sleep, times when your conscious mind wasn't interfering. Now you're trying to deliberately summon something that's only ever appeared spontaneously. The explanation made sense, but did nothing to ease Naruto's frustration. For 2 years, he practiced these exercises, breathing techniques, chakra circulation drills, visualization methods, with maddeningly little progress. The chains remained stubbornly beyond his conscious control, appearing only in dreams or during the occasional emotional outbursts that he'd so far managed to suppress before anyone noticed. Maybe I just can't do it, he muttered, picking at the grass beneath him. Maybe the old man was wrong about me having mom's ability. Kakashi's eye crinkled, his version of a smile. The chains that held down the nine-tailed fox the night you were born suggest otherwise. Then why can't I make them appear now? Naruto demanded, leaping to his feet. What's the point of having some super-powerful bloodline if I can't even use it? Patience has never been your strong suit, Kakashi observed dryly. But in this case, I think we might need a different approach. He reached into his weapons pouch and extracted a small scroll sealed with the Uzumaki spiral. Naruto's eyes widened. In 2 years of training, Kakashi had never shared any actual Uzumaki techniques or knowledge, focusing instead on basic chakra control exercises that left Naruto perpetually bored and frustrated. What's that? He asked, excitement instantly replacing dejection. Something I've been saving until you were ready. Kakashi unrolled the scroll carefully. Your mother left several records of how she learned to manifest and control her chains. The Hokage thought it might be time to try her methods instead of our standard approach. Naruto crowded close, eyes devouring the elegant handwriting that covered the scroll, his mother's handwriting. Actual words she had written with her own hand. These are Mom's notes, he whispered, suddenly afraid to touch the paper, as if it might disintegrate at his touch. Kakashi nodded. Kushina Uzumaki was many things, but organized record-keeper wasn't one of them. Still, she documented her training methods, probably intending to pass them down to any children she might have. Naruto's throat tightened. She'd written these for him. Before she even knew him, she'd prepared for his training, expected to be there to teach him herself. What does it say? He asked, unable to decipher the shorthand and technical terminology that filled the scroll. It says, Kakashi translated, finger tracing along the text, that the adamantine sealing chains aren't summoned through hand signs or traditional chakra molding. They're an extension of the Uzumaki life force itself, what some might call the soul. My soul? Naruto repeated uncertainly. Essentially. According to Kushina, the first manifestation usually comes in a moment of absolute necessity, when the wielder needs to protect something precious to them, something they cannot bear to lose. Naruto frowned. But I already manifested them as a baby. An unprecedented case, Kakashi acknowledged. But the principle might still apply for conscious control. Instead of focusing on the chakra pathways, Kushina suggests focusing on the emotional core, the reason you want to manifest the chains in the first place. The boy's forehead creased in concentration. So I need to think about protecting something important? But what? Kakashi rolled the scroll back up, tucking it away. That's something only you can answer. What matters enough to you that you'd do anything to protect it? Naruto opened his mouth, then closed it again. The question wasn't as simple as it first appeared. He had no family to protect. His friendships at the academy were superficial at best. The village that mostly ignored or despised him hardly seemed worth risking his life for. Then an image flashed through his mind, the Hokage monument, with his own face someday carved alongside the leaders who had protected Konoha through generations. The future, he said finally. I want to protect my future, where I become Hokage and everyone acknowledges me. Kakashi studied him for a long moment, expression unreadable behind his mask. An interesting answer. Not what I expected, but perhaps that's why you're unique among Uzumaki. Is that good or bad? Neither. Just different. Kakashi gestured for Naruto to sit again. Let's try once more, but this time, don't think about the chains themselves. Think about that future you want to protect. Feel the determination to reach it, to safeguard it against anything that might prevent it from coming true. Naruto closed his eyes, conjuring the image of himself in the Hokage's robes, respected and admired by the very villagers who now crossed the street to avoid him. He imagined standing on the Hokage tower, looking out over a peaceful Konoha that he had protected, that he had saved. Heat bloomed in his chest, not the angry burn of frustration, but something steadier, more determined. It spread through his limbs, down to his fingertips, pooling in his palms like liquid sunlight. Good. Kakashi's voice seemed to come from very far away. Now reach for that feeling. Give it shape. Naruto extended his right hand, fingers spread wide. The warmth intensified, concentrated, became almost painful in its intensity. Then, a sound like metal links clinking together. A sensation of weight and power extending from his palm. Open your eyes, Naruto. He did and gasped. From the center of his palm emerged a single golden chain, no longer than his forearm, glowing with chakra so dense it was almost tangible. It hovered there, swaying slightly like a snake testing the air, awaiting his command. I did it, Naruto breathed, afraid that speaking too loudly might break his concentration. Kakashi-sensei, look! I really did it! Very impressive. Kakashi agreed, his visible eye analyzing the manifestation with undisguised interest. Can you move it? Naruto focused on the chain, willing it to extend further. It responded sluggishly at first, then with growing confidence, stretching another foot into the air. Awesome! He exclaimed, then winced as his excitement caused the chain to flicker and dissipate back into his chakra network. Ah man! I almost had it! But you did have it, Kakashi pointed out. For nearly 30 seconds on your first conscious attempt. That's remarkable progress. Pride swelled in Naruto's chest, chasing away the disappointment of losing control. He'd done it. He'd actually manifested one of the chains while fully awake. It wasn't much compared to the dozens his mother could supposedly produce, but it was a start. Can I try again? I bet I can make it last longer this time. Kakashi shook his head. Not today. This type of chakra manipulation is incredibly taxing, especially for someone your age. We'll continue tomorrow. But… no arguments, the Jonin said firmly. Besides, don't you have academy homework to complete? Naruto groaned, flopping backward onto the grass. Tactical theory. It's so boring. Boring but necessary. Kakashi countered, retrieving his book from his pocket. The most powerful jutsu in the world won't save you if you charge blindly into an ambush. Fine, Naruto grumbled, hauling himself to his feet. But tomorrow I'm making 2 chains, believe it! Kakashi's eye crinkled in that familiar smile. I look forward to seeing it. As Naruto bounded away through the trees, energy apparently undiminished by the chakra expenditure, Kakashi remained in the clearing. He pulled a small notebook from his vest pocket and jotted down observations about the day's breakthrough. First conscious manifestation, single chain, approximately 18 inches, maintained for 27 seconds. Trigger appeared to be determination rather than protective instinct. Unusual for Uzumaki according to Kei's notes, but possibly connected to unique circumstances of N's birth/life. Recommend increasing training frequency to capitalize on breakthrough. Also recommend beginning basic sealing instruction, as chains and sealing jutsu traditionally complement each other in Uzumaki techniques. He paused, then added a final note. Personal observation: when manifested, chain briefly resonated with the Nine-Tails seal. Possible indication of symbiotic relationship developing. Monitor closely for any sign of Fox's influence. Tucking the notebook away, Kakashi gazed up through the canopy at the patches of blue sky visible between leaves. Minato would have been proud of today's progress. Kushina would have been ecstatic, and probably would have celebrated by taking Naruto for ramen, a habit the boy had somehow inherited despite never knowing his mother. Perhaps, Kakashi thought, he should do the same. Not as a replacement for the parents Naruto had lost, but as acknowledgement of the legacy he was beginning to claim. Ichiraku ramen steamed in the evening air, the savory aroma drawing customers despite the unseasonable chill. Naruto sat perched on his favorite stool, already halfway through his second bowl, chattering excitedly between mouthfuls. And then it just appeared! Like whoosh! This golden chain coming right out of my hand! Teuchi smiled indulgently, having long since learned to nod along with Naruto's fantastical stories without questioning their veracity. The boy's imagination was as boundless as his appetite. Sounds impressive, the ramen chef commented, ladling broth into a fresh bowl. Special training with your tutor must be going well. It's awesome, Naruto confirmed, either missing or ignoring the skepticism in Teuchi's tone. Kakashi-sensei says I'm making great progress, and maybe soon he'll teach me some real UZ. He cut himself off abruptly, remembering the Hokage's warnings about discussing his heritage publicly. Some real useful ninja techniques. Teuchi raised an eyebrow but didn't press. In the 7 years since the Nine-Tails attack, he developed a soft spot for the village pariah, finding it impossible to reconcile the cheerful, ramen-loving child with the demonic entity supposedly sealed inside him. Well, keep at it, he said, sliding the fresh bowl toward Naruto. On the house, for all your hard work. Naruto's eyes widened. Really? Thanks, old man Teuchi. A commotion near the entrance drew their attention. A group of academy students Naruto recognized from his class had paused outside, peering in with expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. That's him, one whispered, not nearly quietly enough. My dad says he gets special training because the Hokage feels sorry for him. I heard it's because he's so bad at everything they're afraid he'll hurt himself. Another snickered. My mom says not to go near him. A third added, voice dropping even lower. Says he's dangerous. Naruto's shoulders tensed, chopsticks freezing halfway to his mouth. The familiar burn started in his chest, anger, humiliation, and beneath it all, that golden heat that signaled his chains responding to his emotions. Not here, he thought desperately. Not in front of everyone. But the heat intensified, racing along his chakra pathways like wildfire. His hand began to tremble, a faint golden glow emanating from his palm. Teuchi, noticing both Naruto's distress and the strange light, moved quickly to intervene. You kids! Either come in and order or move along. You're blocking my entrance. The group startled, then hurried away, whispering among themselves. Naruto squeezed his eyes shut, focusing on the breathing exercises Kakashi had taught him. Gradually, the burning subsided, the glow faded, and the imminent manifestation receded. You okay, Naruto? Teuchi asked quietly, concern etched across his weathered features. I'm fine, Naruto managed, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Just got a little hot for a second. Teuchi didn't look convinced but nodded anyway. Eat up before it gets cold. Nothing solves problems like a hot bowl of ramen. Naruto returned to his meal with significantly less enthusiasm. The earlier elation of his breakthrough with Kakashi had evaporated, replaced by the all-too-familiar ache of isolation. 2 years of knowing why the village feared him hadn't made the reality any easier to bear. If anything, it was harder now, carrying not just the burden of the Nine-Tails, but also the weight of his clan's legacy and the constant fear of exposing either secret accidentally. He finished his ramen mechanically, thanked Tucci with a forced brightness, and headed home through streets gradually emptying as evening deepened toward night. The route took him past the academy, dark and silent now, its training grounds deserted. On impulse, Naruto detoured into the grounds, making his way to the practice targets he'd failed to hit that morning. Moonlight silvered the wooden posts, casting long shadows across trampled grass. He reached into his pocket, extracting one of the blunted practice kunai he sometimes borrowed to work on his aim after hours. The weight felt awkward in his small hand, the balance never quite right no matter how he adjusted his grip. Stupid kunai, he muttered, taking position before the target. Stupid academy. Stupid classmates. He threw with more force than technique. The kunai sailed wide, disappearing into shadows beyond the target. Frustration boiled over. Stupid chains that only work when nobody's around to see them. As if triggered by his words, heat flared in his palm. Before he could suppress it, a golden chain burst forth, whipping through the air with a life of its own. It struck the target dead center with enough force to splinter the wood, the sound of impact echoing across the empty training ground. Naruto stared, mouth agape, as the chain hung suspended in the air, connecting his hand to the shattered target like a glowing lifeline. Whoa! He breathed, momentarily forgetting his anger in the face of this display of raw power. Then panic set in. He was in the open, using a classified ability where anyone might see. Frantically, he tried to recall how he dismissed the chain during practice with Kakashi, but in his agitation, the technique eluded him. Come on, disappear! He hissed, shaking his hand as if trying to dislodge the chain physically. It only pulsed brighter in response, the golden light illuminating the training ground like a miniature sun. Footsteps sounded nearby, someone alerted by the noise of the splintering target. Desperation peaked, and with it, Naruto's instinctive control. The chain retracted in a blur of golden light, vanishing back into his chakra network just as a figure rounded the corner of the academy building. Who's there? Called a familiar voice. This area is off limits after hours. Naruto froze, caught between the instinct to flee and the knowledge that running would only confirm his guilt. Swallowing hard, he stepped forward into a shaft of moonlight. It's just me, Iruka-sensei. Iruka's stern expression shifted to surprise, then suspicion. Naruto? What are you doing here so late? Extra practice, Naruto answered, the half-truth coming easily. I wanted to work on my kunai throws after, this morning. His teacher's gaze moved past him to the damaged target, eyes narrowing at the splintered wood. Did you do that? Naruto hesitated, mind racing for a plausible explanation. I got mad and kicked it. You kicked it? Iruka's tone made clear his disbelief. Hard enough to splinter solid oak. I was really mad, Naruto offered weakly. Iruka crossed his arms, the moonlight highlighting the scar across his nose. Naruto, what's really going on? First the special training sessions with the Jonin, now this? What aren't you telling me? The question hung in the night air, loaded with implications. Naruto's gaze dropped to his sandals, mind churning. Iruka-sensei was one of the few adults in the village who treated him with consistent kindness. If anyone might understand. But the Hokage's warnings echoed in his memory. Your heritage must remain secret for now. Too many would seek to exploit your power, or fear it. Nothing, he finally answered, unable to meet Iruka's searching gaze. I'm just working harder so I won't be dead last anymore. Iruka's expression softened slightly. Naruto, there's no shame in asking for help if you're struggling with something. That's what teachers are for. The gentle tone nearly broke Naruto's resolve. For a wild moment, he considered telling Iruka everything, about the Nine Tails, about his Uzumaki heritage, about the chains he was only just beginning to control. The words pressed against his lips, desperate for release. Instead, he forced a grin. I know, Iruka-sensei. I'm fine, really. Just wanted some extra practice. Iruka studied him for a long moment, clearly unconvinced. All right, he finally said. But it's time to go home now. And next time you want after-hours practice, ask permission first. Yes, sensei. Naruto agreed readily, relieved to escape further questioning. I'll walk you home, Iruka added, his tone making clear this wasn't a suggestion. As they made their way through Konoha's darkened streets, Naruto's mind raced. The incident at the training ground had demonstrated both progress and danger. His chains were responding more readily to his emotions, but that very responsiveness made public discovery more likely. He needed to gain better control, and quickly. Before someone besides Iruka caught him using abilities no academy student should possess. Again. Naruto grit his teeth, sweat dripping from his brow despite the cool morning air. 3 chains extended from his right hand, golden links trembling with the effort of maintaining their materialization. Can't hold it much longer, he gasped, muscles quivering from chakra strain. 10 more seconds, Kakashi instructed, tone unyielding. Then add a 4th chain. A 4th? Naruto protested. I can barely keep these 3 going. 9 seconds. Growling with frustration, Naruto poured more chakra into the technique. The existing chains stabilized momentarily, their glow intensifying. 8. 7. He could feel his reserves depleting rapidly. Normally boundless thanks to both his Uzumaki heritage and the 9 tails sealed within him, even Naruto's chakra had limits, especially when channeled through a technique he was still learning to control. 6. 5. The chains began to flicker, their solid light construction wavering like candles in a breeze. Naruto's arm felt like lead, the chakra pathways burning with overuse. 4. 3. I can't, he cried, as the first chain dissolved back into raw chakra. 2. Kakashi continued implacably. 1. The remaining chains vanished, leaving Naruto gasping on his knees in the secluded training ground. For a week since his first conscious manifestation, Kakashi had pushed him relentlessly, increasing the difficulty of each exercise just as Naruto mastered the previous one. Not good enough, the Jonin observed, making a note in his ever-present book. Your mother could maintain dozens of chains simultaneously by your age. Well, I'm not my mother, Naruto snapped, frustration boiling over. And she probably had actual Uzumaki clan members teaching her, not some lazy Jonin who reads those perverted books all the time. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed slightly, the only indication that the barb had landed. Perhaps you're right, he said coolly. Perhaps I'm not the ideal instructor for this technique. Regret instantly replaced anger. Wait, I didn't mean. However, Kakashi continued as if Naruto hadn't spoken. You're stuck with me. So let's try a different approach. He reached into his weapons pouch and extracted a small, blank scroll and a brush. The adamantine sealing chains derive their power partly from the Uzumaki clan's natural affinity for sealing techniques. Yet we've neglected that aspect of your training entirely. Naruto eyed the scroll warily. You want me to learn sealing jutsu? Like explosive tags and stuff? Eventually. For now, just the basics. Kakashi unrolled the scroll between them. Simple containment seals to start, the foundation of more complex techniques. Despite his exhaustion, curiosity kindled in Naruto's eyes. Will it help with the chains? According to your mother's notes, yes. The chains are essentially sealing jutsu made manifest, physical extensions of the same chakra principles that govern written seals. Demonstration followed explanation as Kakashi's brush danced across the paper, creating elegant symbols that seemed to shimmer with latent power. Naruto watched, transfixed, as a basic containment seal took shape. Now you try, Kakashi said, offering the brush. Copy exactly what I've done. Naruto took the brush hesitantly. His handwriting at the academy was notoriously atrocious, so bad that Iruka-sensei had once joked it might qualify as a secret code. But this felt different somehow. As his brush touched the paper, something clicked into place, a sense of rightness, of connection to the symbols forming beneath his hand. The result was far from perfect. Lines wobbled where they should have been straight, proportions varied where they should have been consistent, but the underlying structure was sound. Kakashi mused, examining Naruto's work. Better than I expected for a first attempt. Really? Naruto beamed, the praise sweeter for its rarity. You have a natural affinity for it, Kakashi acknowledged. Likely due to your Uzumaki blood. With practice, you could become quite proficient. Encouraged, Naruto dipped the brush again. What else can I learn? Can I make storage scrolls? Or those teleportation seals the fourth Hokage used? One step at a time, Kakashi cautioned, though Naruto caught the hint of amusement in his voice. Master the basics first. Flying Thunder God technique can wait until you're at least a genin. For the next hour, brush strokes replaced chain manifestation as the focus of their training. By the session's end, Naruto had created 3 rudimentary containment seals, each slightly better than the last. Take the scroll and practice, Kakashi instructed as they prepared to leave. But only in private. Sealing techniques are uncommon enough that exceptional skill might raise questions we'd prefer to avoid. Naruto nodded, carefully rolling the precious scroll and tucking it into his jacket. Another secret to keep, he said, unable to entirely hide the bitterness in his tone. Kakashi regarded him thoughtfully. The secrecy won't be forever, Naruto. One day, you'll show the world exactly who and what you are. But that day isn't today. When then? Naruto demanded. When I'm a genin? A chunin? When I'm old like the third? When you're ready, Kakashi answered simply. When both you and the village are ready. The answer wasn't satisfying, but Naruto recognized the finality in his teacher's tone. Further argument would be pointless. Fine, he conceded. But I'm still going to become Hokage someday, secret powers or not. I have no doubt, Kakashi said, and though his mask hid most of his expression, Naruto thought he detected genuine belief in the Jonin's voice. As they parted ways at the edge of the training ground, Naruto, clutching his sealing scroll like a treasure, either noticed the shadowy figure perched in a distant tree, observing their session through a telescope jutsu. Mizuki, assistant instructor at the academy, lowered his hands from the viewing seal, lips curving in a calculating smile. Interesting, he murmured. Very interesting indeed. Chalk dust motored through afternoon sunlight as Iruka diagrammed infiltration routes on the academy classroom's blackboard. Most students followed with varying degrees of attention, except for one blond boy seated near the window, whose focus was entirely on the small scroll concealed beneath his desk. Naruto's tongue protruded slightly as he carefully traced a sealing symbol with a pencil, attempting to recreate from memory the containment seal Kakashi had taught him. For once, his notorious inability to concentrate in class had nothing to do with boredom or rebellion. He was simply too excited about his new skill to wait until after school. And so, the advantage of approach vector B is... Iruka's lecture cut off abruptly. Naruto! What are you doing? Naruto's head snapped up, pencil freezing mid-stroke. Taking notes? Really? Because it looks to me like you're drawing instead of paying attention. Iruka strode between the desks, hand extended. Let me see these notes. Panic flared. If Iruka saw the sealing formulas, advanced techniques no academy student should know, there would be questions Naruto couldn't answer. It's nothing, he protested, trying to roll the scroll up. Just doodles. But Iruka was too quick. He plucked the scroll from Naruto's hands, unrolling it to reveal the partially completed containment seal. The teacher's expression shifted from irritation to confusion to sharp interest in the span of seconds. Naruto, where did you learn this? The classroom had gone deathly quiet, every student watching the confrontation with avid curiosity. Naruto's mind raced for a plausible explanation. I found it in a book at the library. He tried, the light transparent even to his own ears. A book on advanced sealing techniques? Iruka's skepticism was palpable. In the public library? Maybe it was misplaced? Naruto offered weakly. Before Iruka could respond, the classroom door slid open. Mizuki stepped in, his perpetual smile firmly in place. Sorry to interrupt, Iruka, but the Hokage has requested Naruto's presence immediately. Relief flooded Naruto's system, saved by the most unlikely of interventions. Iruka hesitated, clearly torn between pursuing the mystery of the sealing scroll and obeying the Hokage's summons. "We'll discuss this later," he decided, rolling the scroll back up and handing it to Naruto. "Report to the Hokage Tower immediately." Naruto didn't need to be told twice. He snatched the scroll, shoved it into his pocket, and bolted for the door before Iruka could change his mind. "This way, Naruto," Mizuki said, guiding him into the hallway. Once the classroom door closed behind them, the assistant instructor's pleasant smile took on a sharper edge. "In trouble again, Naruto?" "Not really." Naruto hedged, uncomfortable under Mizuki's scrutiny. Unlike Iruka, whose scoldings came from a place of genuine concern, Mizuki's interest always felt calculating. "Did the old man, I mean the Hokage, really ask for me?" "Not exactly," Mizuki admitted, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "But I thought you might appreciate a rescue before Iruka confiscated your little project." Naruto stiffened. "You saw it?" "I noticed things," Mizuki said vaguely. "Interesting things. Like how a student who can barely perform a basic clone jutsu is somehow practicing advanced sealing techniques. Or how that same student disappears 3 times a week for special training with a jonin." The hair on the back of Naruto's neck stood up. There was something predatory in Mizuki's tone, despite the friendly smile that never left his face. "I don't know what you're talking about," Naruto said, taking a step back. "I just found that scroll thing in the library, like I told Iruka-sensei." "Of course you did." Mizuki's smile widened. "Just like you found the means to shatter a practice target from 20 feet away without touching it?" Fascinating coincidence. Cold dread washed through Naruto. Mizuki had seen him that night at the training ground. Had seen the chains. "I need to go," he said, backing further away. "The Hokage isn't expecting you," Mizuki finished for him. "But perhaps he should be informed about your extracurricular activities." "Are you blackmailing me?" Naruto asked, incredulity momentarily overriding fear. Mizuki chuckled, though the sound held no warmth. "Think of it as an opportunity for mutual benefit. You have secrets. I have curiosity. Satisfy the latter, and the former remains safe." Naruto's mind raced. He needed to report this to the Hokage or Kakashi immediately. But first, he had to escape this conversation without revealing anything more. "I really don't know what you're talking about," he insisted, forcing his best confused expression. "But I gotta go. Since the Hokage isn't really waiting, I should get back to class." Mizuki's hand shot out, gripping Naruto's shoulder with surprising strength. "Don't play dumb, Naruto. It doesn't suit you. I know there's more to you than the dead last act you put on. Those chains, that sealing knowledge, no ordinary academy student has access to such things." The grip tightened painfully. "Tell me what you are." Something in Naruto snapped. The familiar heat surged through his chakra network, but this time, he didn't fight it. Welcomed it even. Golden light erupted between them as a chain burst from Naruto's chest, striking Mizuki square in the stomach. The assistant instructor released him with a pained "Oof!" stumbling backward against the wall. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," the boy growled, blue eyes flashing with determination as the chain hovered protectively before him. "And whatever I am is none of your business." Mizuki's shock gave way to calculation, then to a strange satisfaction. "So it's true," he murmured, straightening despite the obvious pain in his midsection. "The adamantine sealing chains? I thought they died with Kushina Uzumaki." The name sent a jolt through Naruto. "You knew my mother?" Too late, he realized his mistake. Mizuki's eyes gleamed with triumph. "So that's it. You're her son." The resemblance should have been obvious, but with the force coloring. He trailed off, piecing together implications that made his eyes widen further. "Interesting. Very interesting indeed." Naruto's chain pulsed brighter, responding to his rising panic. "Stay away from me," he warned, backing toward the academy exit. "I'm going to the Hokage right now." "Of course," Mizuki agreed, his demeanor shifting back to the pleasant instructor persona with disturbing ease. Please give Lord Third my regards. And Naruto? His smile turned predatory once more. This conversation isn't over. It's barely begun. Heart pounding, Naruto turned and ran, the chain retracting back into his chest as he burst through the academy doors into the sunlit streets of Konoha. He didn't slow until the Hokage Tower came into view, its familiar silhouette offering the promise of safety. Only when he reached the building's entrance did he allow himself to confront the full magnitude of what had just happened. He had exposed his secret. Worse, he had confirmed Mizuki's suspicions about his parentage. And worst of all, he had lost control of his chains in a public place, exactly what the Hokage and Kakashi had warned him against. Taking a deep breath, Naruto squared his shoulders and entered the tower. Mistakes had been made. Now he had to face the consequences. This is most troubling. Hiruzen Sarutobi's weathered face was grave as he absorbed Naruto's breathless account. The boy stood before the Hokage's desk, still trembling slightly from the confrontation with Mizuki and the subsequent sprint to the tower. I messed up, Naruto admitted, gaze fixed on his sandals. I got scared and the chains just came out. Fear is a powerful trigger, Hiruzen acknowledged. But yes, this complicates matters significantly. He rose from his desk, moving to the window that overlooked the village. For a long moment, he simply gazed outward, pipe forgotten in his hand, lost in calculation. Mizuki has always been ambitious, he finally said. But I never suspected he would go so far as to intimidate a student. What's going to happen now? Naruto asked in a small voice. Is he going to tell everyone about me? About Mom and the chains? Hiruzen turned back, his expression softening at the genuine fear in the boy's eyes. No, Naruto. He won't be telling anyone anything. The certainty in the old man's tone sent a chill down Naruto's spine. For a moment, he glimpsed not the kind grandfather figure he'd grown up knowing, but the god of shinobi who had led Konoha through multiple wars. You're going to kill him? Naruto whispered, eyes wide. Hiruzen actually chuckled at that, the fearsome aura dissipating. Nothing so dramatic. But Mizuki will be removed from his position at the academy and placed under observation. What you've reported suggests intentions that go beyond mere curiosity. Relief washed through Naruto, followed quickly by guilt. But it's my fault. If I hadn't used the chains... Mizuki engineered that confrontation deliberately. Hiruzen interrupted gently. From your description, he's been watching your training sessions, gathering information. The incident today was merely confirmation of what he already suspected. A gentle rap at the door interrupted them. At Hiruzen's enter, Kakashi appeared, his visible eye immediately focusing on Naruto's distressed state. You summoned me, Lord Hokage? Yes. We have a situation involving Naruto's training that requires immediate attention. Quickly, the Hokage summarized what had happened. Kakashi's expression remained unreadable, but a dangerous tension entered his posture as the tale unfolded. My fault, the Jonin said when Hiruzen finished. I should have detected surveillance during our sessions. Perhaps, Hiruzen allowed. But what's done is done. Now we must deal with the consequences. He returned to his desk, hands steepled before him. Naruto, this incident demonstrates that your control over the chains, while improving, remains too tenuous for public interaction. Until you can maintain absolute control even under duress, we must take additional precautions. Like what? Naruto asked, apprehension building. For the next month, you will be excused from the academy. What? Naruto yelped. But that's not fair. I'm already behind in class. Instead, Hiruzen continued as if he hadn't been interrupted. You will train with Kakashi full-time. Morning to evening, focusing exclusively on mastering your chains and basic sealing techniques. Naruto's protest died on his lips. Full-time training with Kakashi? No more boring academy lectures? No more failing at basic jutsu while his classmates snickered? Really? He asked, disbelief warring with excitement. It's the most logical solution, Hiruzen confirmed. We'll inform Iruka that you're receiving specialized remedial training to address your unique learning challenges. Which isn't entirely untrue, Kakashi noted dryly. But what about Mizuki? Naruto asked. Won't he tell everyone what he saw? Leave Mizuki to me, Hiruzen said, and again that hint of steel entered his voice. By this evening, he will no longer be in a position to share anything he may have learned. The matter-of-fact statement sent another shiver through Naruto, a reminder that beneath the kindly exterior, the third Hokage remained one of the most formidable shinobi alive. So I just don't go to the academy tomorrow? Naruto clarified, still processing this unexpected turn of events. Report to Training Ground 11 at dawn instead, Kakashi instructed. And be prepared for the most intensive month of your life. The warning should have been intimidating. Instead, Naruto found himself grinning. This was his chance. A full month to focus solely on the abilities that made him special, that connected him to his mother's legacy. I'll be ready, he promised. I won't let you down, believe it! Hiruzen smiled indulgently. I believe you, Naruto. Now return home and rest. You'll need your strength for the days ahead. As Naruto bounded from the office, his earlier fear forgotten in the excitement of this new opportunity, Hiruzen's smile faded. He recovers quickly, he observed to Kakashi. A valuable trait in our profession. He's resilient, Kakashi agreed. But this incident with Mizuki concerns me. If he's been watching our training, what information might he have already passed on? And to whom? Questions Ibiki will be asking very thoroughly this evening, Hiruzen said grimly. In the meantime, we accelerate Naruto's training. The chains must become an asset he can control, not a liability that controls him. Kakashi nodded, already mentally restructuring the training regimen he'd planned. He has potential. More than I initially estimated. The Uzumaki blood runs strong in him. As does his father's determination, Hiruzen added softly. They would be proud of him, Kakashi. Despite the challenges, despite the setbacks, he remains unbroken. He'll need that strength in the days to come, Kakashi said, his tone somber. Especially once word of his abilities begins to spread beyond our borders. Then we must ensure he's ready when that day comes, Hiruzen concluded. The legacy of the Uzumaki clan and the future of Konoha's Jinchuriki now rest in your hands, Kakashi. The silver-haired Jonin straightened, accepting the weight of that responsibility with a formal bow. I won't fail him, Lord Hokage. As Kakashi departed to prepare for the intensive training ahead, Hiruzen turned once more to the window, gaze following Naruto's small figure as the boy raced across the rooftops toward his apartment, golden hair catching the late afternoon sunlight like a beacon. The will of fire burns brightly in you, Naruto Uzumaki, the old Hokage murmured. May it light your path through the shadows that lie ahead. Darkness had fallen by the time Naruto reached his apartment building, the day's events having taken a circuitous route through his thoughts as he wandered Konoha's streets, processing everything that had happened. The confrontation with Mizuki. The revelation of his secret. The month of intensive training now awaiting him. He should have been exhausted. Instead, nervous energy buzzed through his system, making sleep seem impossible despite the early start Kakashi had mandated for tomorrow. As he climbed the stairs to his floor, a familiar figure leaning against his apartment door made him pause mid-step. Iruka-sensei? The academy instructor straightened, expression unreadable in the dim hallway lighting. We need to talk, Naruto. Wariness instantly replaced surprise. Had Iruka heard about the incident with Mizuki already? About the chains? About his month-long absence from the academy? Sure, Naruto replied, unlocking his door with deliberately casual movements. Want some instant ramen? It's pretty much all I have. Iruka followed him inside, declining the offered refreshment with a shake of his head. The Hokage informed me you'll be receiving specialized training for the next month. Yeah, Naruto confirmed, relaxing slightly. If Iruka knew about the training, the Hokage must have given him the official version of events. Pretty cool, huh? No boring academy lectures for a whole month. That's not how I'd characterize it, Irika said dryly. But that's not why I'm here. He extracted a familiar scroll from his vest pocket, Naruto's sealing practice from class. I want to know where you really learned this. And don't tell me the library story again. We both know that's not true. Naruto's heart sank. Of all the secrets revealed today, this seemed the most innocuous, yet here was Irika, fixating on it with the tenacity that made him an excellent teacher and a terrible person to try fooling. I can't tell you, Naruto said finally, opting for honesty within the constraints of his promises to the Hokage. It's classified. Irika's eyebrows rose. Classified? Naruto, you're 7 years old. What could possibly be classified about your education? A lot, actually. Naruto muttered, then louder. Look, Irika-sensei, I really can't say more. The old man, the Hokage, would get mad. And Kakashi-sensei too. Kakashi? Irika repeated, surprise evident. Kakashi Hatake is your special instructor? Naruto winced, realizing he'd revealed yet another piece of information he probably shouldn't have. Maybe? I don't know his last name. Wears a mask, has this weird eye thing going on, reads those little orange books all the time? That's Kakashi all right. Irika confirmed, looking increasingly perplexed. But why would one of Konoha's elite jonin be teaching basic sealing techniques to an academy student? Naruto flopped onto his bed, frustration evident in every line of his small body. I told you, I can't say. It's all secret stuff that I'm not supposed to talk about, even though it's really cool and I really want to tell someone. The plaintive note in his voice seemed to reach Irika. The teacher's stern expression softened as he sat beside Naruto on the bed. Naruto, I'm not trying to pry into village secrets, he said gently. I'm concerned about you. These sudden special training sessions, advanced techniques no academy student should know, and now a month-long absence? It's unusual, to say the least. I know it's weird, Naruto acknowledged, picking at a loose thread on his bedspread. But it's important. It's about who I am. Who my family was. The admission slipped out before he could stop it, another secret revealed, another thread pulled from the tapestry of deception that had surrounded his life. Irika's expression shifted to something Naruto couldn't quite identify, a mixture of understanding and sadness, and something else entirely. Your family, he repeated softly. The Hokage has told you about them? Some, Naruto hedged, unsure how much Irika already knew. Enough to know I come from somewhere. That I'm not just nobody. You were never nobody, Naruto, Irika said firmly. Regardless of your family origins. The simple statement, delivered with such conviction, caught Naruto off guard. Most adults in the village treated him as exactly that, nobody at best, a dangerous nuisance at worst. To hear Irika declare otherwise, with such certainty. Thanks, Irika-sensei, he mumbled, suddenly finding it difficult to meet the teacher's gaze. Irika seemed to sense the emotion behind the words. He stood, returning the sealing scroll to his pocket. I won't ask any more questions about your training or these techniques. But Naruto? Yeah? Be careful. Whatever you're learning, whatever power you're developing, remember that the greatest strength comes from protecting those precious to you, not from the techniques themselves. The words resonated strangely with what Kakashi had told him about manifesting the chains, that they responded to the desire to protect what mattered most. I will, Naruto promised, and meant it. Irika nodded, apparently satisfied. Good. Now get some rest. If Kakashi is training you, you'll need every ounce of energy you can muster. As Irika departed, Naruto remained seated on his bed, thoughts churning. Today had been a cascade of revelations and consequences, setbacks and opportunities. His secret was out, partially to Mizuki, tangentially to Irika, and the month ahead promised both intensive training and isolation from his peers. Yet beneath the anxiety and uncertainty, a current of excitement flowed. For 2 years, his training with Kakashi had been limited to a few hours, 3 times a week. Now he would have the Jonin's undivided attention for an entire month. A month to master the chains. A month to delve deeper into his Uzumaki heritage. A month to become someone who couldn't be dismissed as the dead last, the class clown, the village pariah. Someone worthy of his mother's legacy. Someone worthy of becoming Hokage. With that determination burning in his chest, Naruto finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling asleep still fully clothed atop his bed. And as the moon rose over Konoha, casting silver light through his window, golden chains shimmered briefly around his sleeping form, no longer just protective, but responsive to his dreams of proving himself to a village that had never truly seen him. Dreams that, unknown to the sleeping boy, would soon be put to the test in ways he could never have imagined. Dawn painted the sky in watercolor hues as Naruto arrived at Training Ground 11, yawning widely despite his determination to appear alert and ready. The clearing, more isolated than the usual academy training areas, lay shrouded in morning mist that swirled around ancient trees and weathered stone markers. No sign of Kakashi. Figures, Naruto muttered, dropping his packed lunch beside a moss-covered boulder. Tells me to be here at dawn, then doesn't show up himself. He settled cross-legged on the damp grass, prepared for a long wait. Kakashi's chronic lateness was legendary, even to someone who'd only known the Jonin for 2 years. You're late. Naruto yelped, scrambling to his feet as Kakashi materialized from the mist behind him. No, I'm not. The sun's barely up. I said dawn. Kakashi noted mildly. Dawn began approximately 17 minutes ago. In the shinobi world, that kind of delay can be fatal. But you're always late, Naruto protested. Do as I say, not as I do, Kakashi replied with infuriating calm. Lesson 1 of our intensive training, punctuality matters. Before Naruto could formulate a suitably indignant response, Kakashi continued. Now show me your chains. Maximum manifestation, full extension. The abrupt command caught Naruto off guard. Right now? No warm-up or anything. An enemy won't wait for you to warm up, Kakashi said. Show me what you can do at your current baseline. Grumbling under his breath about unreasonable expectations, Naruto closed his eyes, reaching for the now familiar warmth in his chakra core. After yesterday's incident with Mizuki, the chains seemed closer to the surface, more responsive to his call. Golden light bloomed from his chest, spreading outward in radial patterns that traced his chakra network. With a sound like wind chimes in a storm, chains erupted from multiple points on his body, 3 from his chest, 1 from each palm, and to his surprise, 1 from his right foot. 6, Kakashi noted, circling Naruto to observe the manifestation from all angles. More than yesterday, though the foot placement is unusual. How's your control? Naruto focused, willing the chains to move in synchronized patterns. They responded sluggishly at first, then with increasing coordination as he found the rhythm of directing multiple extensions simultaneously. Not bad, he said, a grin spreading across his face as the chains danced through the morning air. I think yesterday's practice really helped. Extend them to maximum range, Kakashi instructed, stepping back to give the chains room. Naruto complied, pushing the golden links outward until they stretched nearly 15 feet from his body in all directions. The strain immediately intensified, his chakra burning as it fed the extended manifestations. Good, Kakashi said, making notes in his ever-present book. Now target practice. Without warning, the Jonin hurled 6 kunai toward the tree line, not at Naruto, but in a scattered pattern around the clearing. Stop them, he ordered simply. Panic flashed through Naruto as the weapons sailed through the air. He never used the chains offensively against moving targets before. On instinct, he directed the golden links toward the kunai, willing them to intercept. 5 chains moved with surprising speed, wrapping around 5 kunai mid-flight. The 6th chain, the one from his foot, tangled with another chain, leaving the final kunai to thud into a tree trunk unimpeded. 5 out of 6, Kakashi observed. Not terrible for a first attempt. But in real combat, that 6th kunai might have been the one that killed your teammate. Naruto's momentary pride deflated. I'm still getting used to the foot chain. It just started appearing yesterday. Then mastering it becomes priority, Kakashi said. The unexpected development of new chain manifestation points is consistent with your mother's experience. As your chakra network develops, new pathways open. The casual mention of his mother sent a thrill through Naruto. Kakashi rarely spoke about Kushina, usually deflecting Naruto's questions with vague references to classified information. Did Mom have chains coming from weird places too? He asked eagerly. Eventually, she could manifest them from any point on her body, Kakashi confirmed, retrieving the scattered kunai with methodical efficiency. By the time I knew her, her control was such that she could produce chains from her hair, her fingertips, even her eyes when necessary. Her eyes? Naruto's own eyes widened at the image. That's so cool! When will I be able to do that? Years of practice, Kakashi said, tempering the boy's enthusiasm. Which is why we're starting now, with intensive training. He returned to the center of the clearing, where Naruto still maintained his six-chain manifestation despite the visible strain on his face. For the next month, we'll focus on 3 primary areas, Kakashi explained. First, endurance, increasing the duration you can maintain multiple chains at maximum extension. Second, precision, improving your ability to target and manipulate objects with the chains. And third, sealing integration, learning to use the chains in conjunction with basic sealing techniques. Naruto nodded eagerly, the grand scope of the training plan feeding his excitement despite the ache building in his chakra pathways. By the end of the month, Kakashi continued, you should be able to maintain at least 10 chains for a minimum of 10 minutes, use them to perform complex manipulations of multiple objects simultaneously, and incorporate at least 3 basic sealing formulas into the chains themselves. The goals seemed almost impossibly ambitious given Naruto's current abilities, but that only intensified his determination. I'll do it in 3 weeks, believe it! Kakashi's visible eye crinkled in his version of a smile. We'll see. For now, maintain those chains for as long as possible while I set up the next exercise. As the Jonin moved around the clearing, arranging what appeared to be an elaborate obstacle course using kunai, shuriken, and training dummies, Naruto focused on keeping his chains stable despite the growing strain. The sensation was peculiar, painful yet exhilarating, like pushing muscles past their normal limits during physical training. Each chain connected to his chakra network, drawing energy that pulsed along the golden links in rhythm with his heartbeat. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Sweat beaded on Naruto's brow as the drain on his reserves intensified. The chains began to flicker, their solid light construction wavering like candle flames in a breeze. Don't fight the fatigue, Kakashi called without looking up from his preparations. Observe it. Understand it. Then push through it. Naruto grit his teeth, determined not to fail this first test of his endurance. He reached deeper into his reserves, tapping into energy he rarely accessed. And felt something else respond. Red chakra, hot and malevolent, stirred behind the seal on his stomach. The Nine Tails, sensing his desperation, offering power with unspoken strings attached. For a tempting moment, Naruto considered accepting that offer, reaching for the seemingly boundless energy that would certainly maintain his chains far longer than his own reserves could manage. Then he remembered the Hokage's warnings about the fox's influence. About how the chains themselves were meant to suppress that very chakra, not be fueled by it. No, he muttered, forcing the red chakra back behind the mental barriers he'd learned to erect. My power, not yours. The effort of rejecting the Nine Tails chakra while maintaining the chains proved too much. With a sound like shattering crystal, all 6 chains dissolved simultaneously, leaving Naruto gasping on his knees in the dewy grass. 13 minutes, 47 seconds, Kakashi noted, appearing beside him with a canteen of water. Impressive for your age and experience level. Naruto accepted the water gratefully, drinking deep before responding. I felt the fox, he admitted between gulps. It tried to give me chakra when I started getting tired. Kakashi's casual demeanor shifted, his visible eyes sharpening with interest. And you rejected it? Yeah. Didn't seem right to use its power for this. The Jonin studied him for a long moment. A wise decision, he finally said. Though there may come a time when you'll need to learn to use the Nine-Tails chakra safely. But that's a lesson for another day. He helped Naruto to his feet, gesturing toward the obstacle course he'd constructed. Rest for 10 minutes, then we'll begin the precision exercises. And Naruto? Yeah? Well done. The simple praise, so rare from the typically taciturn Jonin, sent a warm glow of pride through Naruto's chest. Whatever challenges the month ahead might bring, whatever setbacks he might face, he would meet them head-on. Because for the first time in his young life, Naruto Uzumaki wasn't just the village pariah or the academy's dead last. He was the inheritor of the adamantine sealing chains. The son of Kushina Uzumaki. A shinobi in training with powers even elite Jonin respected. And someday, he promised himself as he watched golden motes of chakra still dissipating around his hands, someday, the entire village would know it too.